All right, everyone, now it's time for FISA Fallout, sort of the run-up the day after the big Watergate 2.0 revelation. Now, you've seen some people have already stopped talking about it, which is not great, but there are other investigations apparently being triggered at the moment by that particular Nunes memo. So we haven't seen the end of this, not by a long shot, and you've got to understand, the damage is already done. The credibility of Trump's opponents in claiming that he's a foreign asset or trying to usurp democracy diminishes somewhat when, at the very least, people with an open mind, which is, maybe half the U.S. population, I think looking at this, they're going to have a difficult time siding with his opponents saying that when it appears that the opposite is actually true. Those that opposed him were the ones that were attempting to usurp democracy. But first, we've got to get to James Comey and his response to it, his tweet. Because it was pretty funny. He's like, oh, well, that's it? Oh, this is a whole lot about nothing. Don't bother looking at this, folks. It's boring. Okay, so the same James Comey that for some weeks sparred with Trump, who obviously does not like him on some personal level, and who apparently is named in he's named in the memo as having briefed him on the Steele dossier at the time that he already knew that it wasn't even real. You're telling me that this dude doesn't want me to look into it too much because he thinks it's a nothing burger, and that hashtag was definitely trending the other night. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. See, herein lies the problem. Comey is a politicized figure. He's been jerked around. It's not all his fault. He was jerked around by people on both sides that simultaneously called him either God or Satan, depending on what press release he had put out the day before, basically during the Clinton email investigation. At all times where it looked like Clinton may face sweet justice for her various high crimes and misdemeanors. The Democrats said, well, Comey's unfit, he's a terrible person. They reamed him. If you were to look at the statements that they made about Comey, about how dumb he was, about how evil and corrupt he was, if you applied them to like the tweet he made the other day, why would they even want to retweet him? Why would they be listening to him so much? Instead, they're writing news articles, fluff pieces about how great a man he supposedly is. Well, that's funny. You called him an evil, wicked, despicable human being during the Clinton email investigation, and the Republicans, of course, did exactly the same. When it looked like there was going to be accountability, they loved him. Oh, Comey is our guy. He's one of us. Then the second that he comes out, he says, well, Hillary, she broke the law, she did all sorts of shitty shit, but I'm not charging her. All of a sudden, it was Comey the evil traitor. Well, you had spent, variously weeks applauding him beforehand, occasionally doing what the Democrats did before as well when it looked like you wouldn't get closure on it. So people jerked him around. Whatever his personal political beliefs are, I would hazard a guess to say they're somewhere within the swamp, because considering the fact that he was heading, the FBI, these people do have political bias. Also, you got to understand, Comey's the dude who's like, oh, don't worry, FBI agents, I still love you, America's still behind you, we'll get through this. What is there to get through for the FBI at large? What is being spoken of are a handful of individuals within the FBI who misused their position to conduct unlawful surveillance by applying for a FISA warrant and submitting at least in part information known to be false at the time it was submitted. It's not about, hey, everyone in the FBI is a traitor. That's the projection. That's the straw man argument that's being attacked. The left right now, in its damage control mode, is seeking to make it sound as though Trump and all of his fans just viscerally hate the FBI. It's a coup, basically. What are you talking about? He's talking about Christopher Steele is involved, Comey is basically a jackass, and you've got these other agents texting each other, and McCabe. A few people, less than a dozen, overall within the entire Bureau, and people associated with them. Of course, Orr's wife was working for the CIA at the same time as Fusion GPS, if I remember correctly. So that ties the CIA, at least, at that level into it. Is it beyond the realm of possibility in anyone's mind that there would occasionally be politically motivated rogue individuals within any given bureau who would seek to usurp the standing administration of the government? Now, if someone had claimed this about Obama, if some leaks had come forth, you would say, oh, these traitors are trying to destroy the government or something like that. I remember about Snowden, people said that all the time. Well, Snowden leaking, he's a traitor, such a horrible, evil, despicable human being. This is classified. It was unlawful and unconstitutional for him to do it. What a horrible, despicable human being. You know, the same Snowden, who, by the way, still has a bone to pick with Trump as well as the old Obama and Bushite people. Okay, so it's bad to leak things. Is it a leaker or a whistleblower? Well, I mean, all these definitions are all sorts of screwy. It doesn't seem to matter whether you ask a Democrat or a Republican at this point. But for Comey, of all people, for Comey to come out and say, well, this is nothing, you know, I'm not going to look too much into it. Oh, yawn, it's boring. It's classic deflection, Comey. Yeah, you know, he does realize this, of course. He's was heading the FBI, so he's fully aware of the basic gist of propaganda. He understands the concept. He's not dumb. Evil, maybe. Jury's still out. And then there were some people, some Trump fans, I think you're being a little bit overly optimistic, who are like, oh, look deeper into what Comey said. He's actually still our guy, and this is like, you know, he's basically casting a pall over steel or something. It's like, no, that's a little bit too far beyond into La La Land for me. I think it's easier to just say Comey is trying to maintain his ultimately political and therefore fiscal relevance by repeatedly inserting himself into these sort of situations, despite the fact that Comey himself is mentioned in the memo. So naturally Comey, I mean, actually in a way, it's kind of counterproductive. If you're named in the memo and then you're putting yourself out there and commenting on that, you're sort of just giving it more attention. I guess he figured it'd be big in the news cycle anyway, the 24-hour news cycle at this point, so it didn't really matter. But, I mean, Comey, he doesn't speak for some great symbol within the American people, for American liberty and the American way and all these things. He speaks as the former head of the Bureau that the claim is there are people within that Bureau who didn't do their job and broke the law and attempted to defraud the entire public. That's the claim that's being made. For James Comey to then weigh in on it, it's like, isn't that a little bit of a conflict of interest? That's like saying, oh, this business is dumping coal tailings into our river. But here's a dude who used to head this company saying that it's not a big deal, so don't worry about it too much, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. No, the claim is that there was criminal wrongdoing in the FBI. For someone who formerly headed the FBI, then to come out and say, "Ooh, stand with the FBI. We'll get through this. We'll muddle through this evil attack upon our glorious bureau." But the claim is that your bureau is not glorious. It should be investigated for this sort of thing. That's the claim. The claim is there was a misuse of the FISA Corp. And by the way, again, long before this story was even an afterthought in people's minds, the FISA courts were already rubber stamping warrants on a regular basis for all sorts of people. You know, for foreign targets. Oh, that's rather funny. Well, it's not really foreign targets now, is it? No, it's domestic targets too. Foreign surveillance. Yeah, the real goal of this entire thing was to conduct surveillance on Donald Trump. It was paid for by the DNC and it was facilitated either knowingly or unknowingly by people in the FBI. That's the fundamental problem. That's what actually happened. And that's unconstitutional. It's bigger than Watergate. Comey knows this. He was there when it was happening. So, yeah, a little bit of a problem there. It's like, oh, yeah, we're going to hear today from Nancy Pelosi on her objective statement on the FISA release. Yeah, we're going to hear from Ron Paul about the Gold Miners Guild. Yeah, it's someone with ties to the situation weighing in, not exactly an unbiased party per se. That's about all. Peace out.